And if we're moving into a crypto winter, then it may be this stock. All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk to you about CORZ Scientific, stock ticker CORZ. They are a Bitcoin mining company. So we cover Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners quite a bit on this channel. So if you have not yet subscribed and that's content you're interested in, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Also, if everybody would do us a favor and smash the like button, it helps out the channel a lot. CORZ put out their quarterly earnings. So I want to go through their quarterly earnings report and then take a look at their chart and talk about valuation. There's an awful lot of information, so I'm going to try and not get too deep into the nitty gritty. I want to keep this big picture. There's also a link in the pinned comment below that is to our free Discord. So you're welcome to join us over there. We talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners quite a bit. So yesterday, which was Monday, CORZ Scientific closed at $3.85. That left them with a market cap of $1.2 billion. So you'll see later when we get to the chart, CORZ Scientific is down pretty drastically on the year, as are most of the Bitcoin miners. So it's not really specific to CORZ Scientific. It's kind of across the board with all of the Bitcoin miners so far in the year 2022. So these guys all peaked in about November of 2021, and it's been down ever since. Most of them are down 60, 70, 80%, and CORZ Scientific is no different. So let's take a look at what their actual operations are and some of their fundamentals, and then we'll take a look at some of the technicals as well and see maybe if there's an opportunity here or if this is one worth putting on your watch list. Okay, so I think the easiest way to go through their quarterly reports is they did do a quarterly presentation. So rather than take you through the 180 pages of the 10Q, we can just go through the first quarter fiscal year 2022 earnings presentation that they've provided for us. This is only 17 pages, and we don't even need to look at all of those. So having said that, this came out late last week. So here they give CORZ Scientific snapshot. So here's a lot of their relevant numbers. So they talk about nearly 300 employees. This is the largest publicly traded Bitcoin mining company. They have the most exahash. They also host a lot of mining equipment. So they are operating on a very large scale. They now give on their website a daily update of the amount of Bitcoin that they mine. In April, they were mining about 37.4 Bitcoin per day. Okay, first quarter revenue, $192 million. So that is significant. That is much larger than any of the other publicly traded Bitcoin miners. Now next, first quarter 2022 net loss, $466 million. Okay, so this is mostly non-cash items, so I just want to talk about that real quick. Net loss driven by a $440 million non-cash mark-to-market adjustment. So in the Bitcoin mining space, the income statements or the statements of operation can be very confusing. There's massive amount of large non-cash numbers. So what I like to look at, I prefer the adjusted EBITDA, and you'll see here, CORZ Scientific had an adjusted EBITDA in the first quarter of $93 million. So I like to look at that ratio versus revenue. And in the Bitcoin mining space, that tends to be in the 50% neighborhood. So here, $93 million of EBITDA on $192 million of revenue. They had 31 exahash. Now that includes all their self-mining exahash and their hosted exahash. So we'll break that down a little bit later. It's been about half and half, and it's starting to skew a little more towards self-mining. So approximately 1 gigawatt expected in 2022 of power. So that is also a large number, and it's more than enough power to operate all of the machines that they're looking to put into service in the year 2022. All right, so just as a point of reference, CORZ Scientific mined more Bitcoin in the first quarter than other publicly traded digital asset miners. So there are many, many more miners than this, but on their list, they're comparing themselves to 5 other miners that have been mining all year in 2021 and all year in 2022. So these guys have some history. So if you look, CORZ Scientific mined 3,202 Bitcoin in the first quarter. In second place overall out of all the other publicly traded Bitcoin miners was Riot Blockchain at 1,405. So that is less than half of what CORZ Scientific mined. And again, that is their self-mined Bitcoin, not the Bitcoin mined by their hosted machines. So Marathon was in third with 1,259. The other major company that's actually not listed on here, and it's really because they mine a lot of Ethereum in addition to Bitcoin, but in Bitcoin Bitcoin equivalents, Hive is somewhere in the same neighborhood that Marathon is as of April 30th. So you'll see all of these are significantly less than what Core Scientific is mining. Now, each one of these miners has some pretty big plans over the next 18 months. So I don't know that Core Scientific will hold this first place forever, but at the moment they are way out in first place. So Bitcoin held is 8,497. That is as of March 31st. So they mined over 1,100 Bitcoin in April and they held all of those as well. So this is up over 9,500 now. As of next month, if they don't sell any Bitcoin, they will have the most Bitcoin hodled out of all the publicly traded Bitcoin miners. Okay, adjusted earnings loss per diluted share, 31 cents. So I want to remember that number because remember, that is just for the quarter. And when you see what the stock is trading at, their PE ratio is very, very low. Okay, this one pretty much goes through their growth. So digital asset mining revenue represented 69% of first quarter revenue. So they have three types of revenue. Their hosting revenue, where they host other machines, equipment sales, which I think is mostly them selling equipment to their hosting customers, and then digital asset mining, which is them mining Bitcoin. So that has turned into by far the biggest piece of the puzzle, and that should grow to be a larger and larger percent of their total picture over the course of time. That is the main thing that this company does. As far as I can tell, the hosting portion of their business, it seems like that segment is just a little bit over break even, but what it does allow them to do is to scale up on a larger scale. So they're growing their own Bitcoin mining faster than they would have been able to had they not been hosting all of these machines. They're getting economies of scale out of all of this, and they may one day segue into just all of their own Bitcoin mining. But in the meantime, this is allowing them to get where they go. So if you look at 2021 versus 2022, in Q1 of 2021, their mining revenue was $9.6 million. In Q1 of 2022, it was $133 million. So you'll see that is a 13x year over year growth. So these guys went from 0 to 133 fast. Okay, I just want to quickly talk about expected hash rate because they did make an announcement here at their quarterly earnings and they changed their guidance. So let me just go through the numbers and I'll explain. In 2021, they had 13.5 exahash at the end of the year and about 450 plus megawatts of power. Again, that includes their own self-mining machines and their hosted machines. Earlier in 2022, they announced they were targeting 40 to 42 exahash by the end of the year. And again, that would be both their self-mining and their hosted machines. And they talked about somewhere in the neighborhood of a 50-50 split. So, they were looking to potentially get to 20 exahash of self-mining in 2022. So they have now come out and dialed that back a little bit, back to the numbers that they were talking about just prior to that announcement. So the revised 2022 expectations are 30 to 32 exahash and approximately 1 gigawatt. And what I believe this represents is this is all the equipment they've already purchased and all the infrastructure they already have. So they have deposits down, significant deposits on the remaining machines that it's going to take to get to this level. And I think they've made a conscious decision with the price of Bitcoin low right now and some other factors going on in the market. It looks to me like they've basically said, we are going to dial back our capital expenditures and make sure that we're fiscally sound in the year 2022, meet all of our obligations and get to where we're going. And then they believe that opportunities will present themselves, including potential acquisitions. So they would not get specific and say exactly what that meant. And they said no offers are out right now, but that is something that they are looking into on a going forward basis. Given the fact that right now Bitcoin is at a low, it's at an 18-month low, and investors are worried all these stocks are pretty much crashing. I think management felt like they had to just pump the brakes a little bit on this massive expansion. So I want to go take a look at how much of this is going to be self-mining. Okay, so you'll see they have here broken down in management's discussion. They break down the self-mining versus the hosting. So currently, at March 31st, they have 8.3 exahash in self-mining. Hash rate to be deployed. Okay, so self-mined 9.1. So if we take the 8.3 they have plus the 9.1 they're planning, that's 17.4 exahash self-mining. The remainder of the 30 to 32 will be hosted. And again, they've already purchase ordered and put down payments on all these machines. So you'll see here, as of March 31st, the remaining payments due on the Bitcoin miners on order is approximately $134.8 million. So I believe they've paid about $250 million in deposits on those already. So I think that's where they decided, you know what, we're already committed to 134 million. We've spent 250 million. If you look on their balance sheet, they have over $1 billion of property, plant, and equipment, including the deposits outstanding. So this is a massively scaled up company. And again, if you remember, we looked at their market cap, and their market cap was only $1.2 billion. So essentially, they have almost that much in just Bitcoin mining, equipment, and infrastructure. So this company has a very strong balance sheet. The one thing I do want to point out, there are a few companies, and Core Scientific is one of them, and really I think Marathon is the other one, where there is a lot of debt. So you'll see $1 billion in long-term notes payable, but most of the other companies, their balance sheets do not look like this. They got to where they are through equity raises. So there's a lot of stock dilution that I know, people have mixed feelings about, but on the flip side, they do not have $1 billion in debt that they have to pay, because these are not multi 5 or 10 year loans. These are most likely shorter term loans, particularly on the Bitcoin mining equipment. So there is some cash requirement. So I guess the biggest thing I would say about Core Scientific is it all comes down to what you believe Bitcoin is going to do in the next period of time. Bitcoin is trading at a low right now, at an 18-month low around $30,000. If you are in the camp that Bitcoin is going to stay there, or maybe even go further down from there and spend the next couple of years in a crypto winter, then that's where Core Scientific could potentially run into some cash flow issues, because they do have $100 million in current notes payable and another $1 billion in long-term notes payable. So you'll see their current liabilities are $414 million. So this company will have to generate cash over time. And if we're moving into a crypto winter, then it may be this stock trades sideways for a long period of time. I do not believe that. I'm not in that camp. I do not think we are in for 1 or 2 years of sideways or downward activity on Bitcoin, but that is my personal opinion. So again, this is not financial advice. You guys have to decide. That is the big factor on Core Scientific, because by all other metrics, this company is quite large and growing. So I don't usually talk about this, but I just want to show there's 3 analysts that have given coverage on this, one of which was just last week. So they're all buys, buy, and it's $10 was the most recent one, $18 and $18 were the previous 2. And again, those were also in the year 2022. So remember, if we look at this stock, they're trading at $3.85. This is a historical low for this stock. If you look at their estimate based on those analysts, they're projecting net income of about 85 cents per share. So that would put them at a forward PE ratio of about 4 to 1. That is very low. At $1.2 billion of market cap, they're also at a price book value of about 1 to 1. This is what has happened to most of the Bitcoin miners. So there's not a big difference between this and the other Bitcoin miners. Depending on the price of Bitcoin, their PE ratio in 2022 could end up being, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to 1. Any of those are very, very small numbers. So I'm going to take a super quick look at the chart and just talk about a little bit of price targets. We've really done a deep dive here, and I don't want this video to go too long. So the first thing I want to show is basically on Friday, there was a gigantic up day, and you'll see Core Scientific gave all of that back in price action today. They finished at $3.85, and that is exactly where they closed last Thursday, at $3.85. So they literally just erased Friday's big green day. If I go back just a half a month, this is April 29th, so that's just about 2.5 weeks ago. Core Scientific's stock price would have to go up 70% if it were to retrace its steps and get back to where it was just about 2.5 weeks ago. This is why I'm looking at this as a very positive risk reward, in my opinion. It is just off of its all-time low. It's trading at a 1 to 1 price to book. It's trading at maybe a 4 to 1 price to earnings ratio, and it's down about 75% off of its highs in November. So again, for me, I'm just going to say I think this represents a good risk reward, but that is not financial advice. You guys have to know your own risk tolerance, and obviously you need to do your own due diligence and double check what I'm talking about. So if you want, add this one to your watch list, do your due diligence, or you may already own this stock. Either way, best of luck. Thanks so much for watching. That's all I have on Core Scientific right now. If you made it this far in the video, please remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. We appreciate it so much, and we will see you in the next video.